Boker Tov, good morning, everyone. Good to be here with all of you as we continue through our month of Elul, getting ever closer to Rosh Hashanah, which will begin on Friday night. But this morning, as we do each morning, let us begin by saying the words of Psalm 27, verse 4. And I invite you to sing them with me. Achat she'alti meit Adonai ota avakesh. Achat she'alti meit Adonai ota avakesh. Shivti beveit Adonai kol yemei chayai lachazot benoam Adonai ulevaker b'heichalo lachazot benoam Adonai ulevaker b'heichalo. One thing I ask of the Eternal, only that do I seek, to live in the house of God all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty of the Eternal, and to frequent God's temple. This morning, we hear some words from Sanford Abramowitz about someone in his life who inspires him.
I have chosen a moment of transformation to be the subject of my Elul reflections. As it turned out, after 61 years of marriage, both Esther and I independently thought of the same recollection. Forgive me for reading this, but with my level of maturity, I do have those senior moments of forgetfulness and did not want to miss one word of this truly transformative event in our lives. Many years ago, shortly after we moved to Palos Verdes, this incident occurred. A little background information may help. Our street was a representation of what we referred to at the time as the United Nations of America. On one side of us lived a Greek family. On the other side, a Mormon family. Shortly up the street was a Muslim family, and down the street was an Irish family. Of course, there were also a few Jewish families further down the street. Our children had friends from all walks of life, and there were many children with different stories of who they were, where they came from, and what they believed in. Both Esther's background and my own had been somewhat exposed to the broader world, but not to the extent that our children experienced as they grew up here in Palos Verdes. We moved to PV when our son Greg was only a year and a half old, and our daughter Deborah was almost 4. Our youngest daughter Shauna did not come along upon the scene until 4 years later. 1 year after moving here, Deborah who loved the Mormon family next door and played with them every day, experienced an interesting conversation with their daughter Marcy, who was a few years older than Deborah. Marcy, who was well into her religious training at the time, and was one of the leaders of the pack among all the children. She told the kids not only what to do, but who they were and who they would become. At that point, Deborah came to us with this interesting story. She said, "Mom and Dad, Marcy told me that God has a son." Well, Esther and I looked at each other, and I carefully said to her that Mom and I certainly know that we are all God's children. Deborah then said, "But Mom and Dad, God has a special son." Well, within less than 1 week after the incident, we joined a young new synagogue in Palos Verdes called Congregation Ner Tamid, where we were members for 45 years and came to Temple Bethel almost 10 years ago. We have been active in Jewish community in synagogue life throughout those years. I have had many roles at CNT, including treasurer, vice president, and president of the congregation. My search committee brought Rabbi Ron Schultz into us, and he stayed for more than 20 years. Esther, of course, was also very active in synagogue life. She was and still is an active member of sisterhood and taught Sunday school at Ner Tamid for many years. So I guess it's safe to say that that incident so many years ago was certainly a significant transformative in our lives. As a final thought, I might add that little girl Deborah just had a virtual bat mitzvah for her daughter Sydney Eliza Abramowitz Proba in Thousand Oaks and passed the Torah to her from generation to generation, Lador Vador. And by the way, I might add that our youngest daughter, Shauna, has her daughter, Emily Annabeth Houlihan, in her third year of cantorial school at Hebrew Union College in New York. So let me wish you all a warm Shana Tova in this year of stress and hardship for our community, for our country, and for the world. Next year, we may not be in Jerusalem, but God willing, we will be back in our sacred home at Temple Bethel.
Thank you so much, Sanford, for sharing your words about this transformative moment and also about your granddaughter and your family who inspire you. What's interesting about the story is that Sanford and his family found connection through Judaism, through conversations with people who aren't Jewish. There are so many people in this world who argue that interfaith marriage is such a terrible thing, but the truth of the matter is that by getting to know and understanding the differences among us, it actually can propel us to figuring out who we are, to understanding our identity. There are so many families within our congregation and the greater Jewish community that probably wouldn't have been as active in Jewish life had one of the spouses not been Jewish. This idea of, hey, this is so important. If there's all these holidays that we want to do something around, we need to know a little bit about this faith. And I think that sometimes perhaps we don't recognize how beautiful our traditions are until we have the opportunity to reflect on them. For one, I think that our community is so much stronger because of the diversity within. Because of the fact that we are Sephardi Jews and Ashkenazi Jews. We are people who grew up Jewish and people who didn't grow up Jewish. We're inclusive of people who are part of the greater Am Yisrael, the greater people of Israel, but maybe don't practice Judaism. And it is wonderful to have every single individual within our community. It's my hope and my prayer that everyone in our community is able to spend this time of the High Holy Day season, these final few days as we prepare for Rosh Hashanah, to do the reflective work of digging within ourselves, to talk to people of different faiths and get to know them and figure out, hey, what's different about mine? What about my faith speaks to me? And you know what can I learn from other faiths as well? I'd love for us to return to our Psalm 27 as we do each morning. And when we read the Psalm, we're going to be focusing on the final lines of the Psalm because we have moved far enough into the month of Elul that that's where we are. Over the past several weeks, we've been looking through these words of the Psalm and we've reflected on so many of them. I hope that those words can speak to us as we read the Psalm this morning. Of David, Adonai is my light and my victory, from whom shall I feel fright? Adonai is the stronghold of my life, from whom shall I feel terror? When evildoers approach me in battle to feed on my flesh, my pursuers, my adversaries, they have stumbled, they have fallen down. If a camp encamps against me, my heart will not fear. If a war arises against me, in this I would trust. One thing I have sought from Adonai, how I long for it, that I might live in the house of Adonai all the days of my life, that I might look upon the sweetness of Adonai and spend time in the palace. That you might hide me in your sukkah on a chaotic day, hide me in the hiding places of your tent, raise me high upon a rock. Now my head rises high above my enemies round about, and in your tent I'll offer offerings to the sound of the truah. I shall sing and chant praises to Adonai. Hear, Adonai, my voice, I am crying out. Be gracious to me. Answer me. My heart has said to you, seek my face. I am seeking your face, Adonai. Do not hide your face from me. Do not turn your servant away in anger. You have been my help. Do not forsake me. Do not abandon me, God of my deliverance. For my mother and my father have abandoned me, yet God gathers me up. Make your path apparent to me. Guide me in the upright road, because of those up ahead who lie in wait for me. Do not hand me over to the lust of my adversaries, for false witnesses have risen against me, puffing violently. Had I not the faith that I would see the goodness of God in the land of life? Wait for Adonai. Fill your waiting with hope in Adonai. Let your heart be strong and of good courage, and wait hopefully for Adonai. Today, like I said, we are focused on this final line. Wait for Adonai. Fill your waiting with hope in Adonai. Let your heart be chazak. Let your heart be strong and of good courage, and wait hopefully for Adonai. I share with you the words from Rabbi Deborah Robin's book. These words about true strength. Strength, she said, is when I am not defined only by death, an accident, addictive behavior, a terrible mistake, a relationship that failed, a darkened dream. I was strong once, maybe twice. It was a long time ago, or maybe it was yesterday. Now I need to be strong. I want to be strong. I can be strong. I can teach my grief, my pain, my doubt, my guilt, my heartache, my defeat to smile. Teaching grief to smile is a lifelong job because I learn differently at different stages of life. I was strong as a child facing the death of my mother. I was strong when I became a mother without my mother. I was strong comforting a mother whose child had died, a child whose mother had died. I teach grief the same way I teach anything, with patience, vulnerability, creativity, in relationship. Good teaching transforms the teacher, the student, even the world. And each encounter is an opportunity to strengthen myself and others with others. I am strong when I am not alone, and always learning to teach my grief to smile. On Rosh Hashanah morning, I'll be offering a High Holy Day sermon about celebrating life at a time that, well, all we have to do is look outside and see how challenging life is. And I hope that this season of High Holy Days, the season of joy that we have in front of us, is something that we are truly able to celebrate amidst all of the chaos. One of the moments that I am most excited about is a moment on Rosh Hashanah morning where everyone who has been sick over the past 6 months, everyone who had COVID and who is better now, everyone who is in harm's way but who is there today, can say the words of a prayer called Birchat HaGomel, which is a prayer that we say when someone has faced a life-threatening situation. And I'll invite everyone to unmute to say these words of prayer in celebration. I look forward to joining you there, to joining you at so many other offerings we have ahead so that we can lift up one another, so that we can teach our grief to smile, so that we can find joy in the midst of challenge. That is what chazak, what strength is. But we also find strength just in community with one another. And I want to thank all of you for being here this morning, for being here for so many mornings throughout the month of Elul. Donald and Riva and Sarah, David and Sunny and Diane, Andrea and Bonnie, Riva and Marla, Rivka and Pam and Tom, Donnie, Leanne, Esther, Tim, Laurel, everyone who is here, thank you so much for being present this morning. For everyone who comes and watches at a better time in the day for them, thank you so much for joining with us. Your presence here really does matter. The fact that we can do this all together, it matters quite a lot. So let us together hear the words of the shofar this morning, awakening all of our souls on this 27th day of the month of Elul. And I give you my 8-year-old daughter, Talia. Tekiah, Shibari, Teruah, Tekiah. Thank you, Talia, for awakening our souls this morning. And finally, let us come together to offer the words of the Mishaberach prayer, a prayer for healing of mind, healing of body, and healing of spirit. I invite you to join with me in singing Debbie Friedman's version of this prayer. Mishaberach Avoteinu Mekor HaBracha V'Himotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishaberach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Lehavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. I hope everyone has a wonderful day, a day of reflection, a day of meaning. And I look forward to seeing you back tomorrow for another Elul reflection.